If you're thinking about moving to Seattle, you may be having a hard time making the decision if you should move to Seattle or Bellevue. Today, I'm gonna give you 5 key differences that you should think about in this move so you can really understand which is the better city for you. Hi, I'm Monica Church, Seattle Bellevue-based real estate agent. I love helping people who reach out from my YouTube channel buy or sell in the Pacific Northwest region. If you want to get in contact with me, as always, my information is in the description below. So Seattle was settled upon in the very early 1900s, really late 1800s, but you won't find a single structure from the 1800s in Seattle. I grew up here and I don't think I've been in a house listed from the 1800s. 1901, sure, you'll find those. With that, you have so much rich history and different architectural styles woven through the city from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. But Bellevue, on the other hand, throughout all of the 20s and 30s, it didn't have this bridge. This bridge here, the 90 bridge, was only introduced in the 40s. So before that, it was just a vacation spot and it was mainly farmland. So the big difference here is in the 40s, people actually started to reside there. Residential developments popped up. With that, you see a lot of homes built in the 50s and the 60s, but you don't see a lot of craftsman homes. So that's actually the first huge difference in Bellevue is there's a less diverse range of architectural styles to choose from, and it's a newer city. And new might sound great, it might sound really ideal, but there are some cons that go along with that. Welcome to a typical Bellevue neighborhood. So in the 50s and 60s, when people did really start moving here, this is what was built, and this is still what we have today. This is the most typical looking neighborhood in Bellevue. The home behind me, it's 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, about 1,900 square feet, and it's listed for $1.675 million. This was built in 1963, kind of a split level home. You're getting either split level or Rambler at that median price. This is exactly what the median home looks like in Bellevue. On the flip side, in Seattle, that could look like so many different things. You can get a craftsman home, a Tudor home, a bungalow, new construction, so many different options. Versus in Bellevue, you just have this. So if you don't like this style of home and that's your budget, maybe you don't live in Bellevue. And as you look around typical neighborhoods like this in Bellevue, you might be thinking to yourself, really, $1.6 million, that's crazy. It looks like nothing special. And you're not wrong. This in Bothell, like 30 minutes away, these homes would be $800,000. It kind of brings up the point, why is it so expensive? There are a lot of great redeeming qualities about Bellevue, so people are willing to pay that price. Well, a huge reason for that is because of the schools. Yeah, this behind me is a high school. They have great educational programs. Really, on the east side, you could be in the Bellevue School District, Lake Washington, Sammamish. You can't go wrong. All these schools are so highly rated. Versus in Seattle, not every neighborhood or district is the same. Some are okay and better than others, but you know, you have to be very neighborhood specific when you're choosing where you're gonna live. They have funding issues. They had a plan to actually cancel and close down 21 schools that they announced last year. It got pushed back because the community got really angry because of it, of course, but who's to say in the future there won't be school closures?
Basically, what I'm trying to say is if you live in Bellevue, homes under $2 million are not very interesting. The neighborhoods aren't that interesting, but people decide to live here for the schools. If you decide to live in Seattle, you can live in a really vibrant neighborhood, you can live in a super cool house, but the education system is a little bit more up in the air.
But if your budget does permit it, options do open up quite a bit once you get above $2 million, up to $3 million, $4 million. I don't mean to casually just throw these numbers around. That's a lot of money. But then you do get more custom homes, more modern homes, kind of craftsman style homes, but they were only built like 20 years ago, but they're still very beautiful. And Cape Cod, East Coast kind of looking homes on really large lots as well, kind of like what's around us right now. The third thing that makes Bellevue so different from Seattle is because it's a different city, they have different policies, different laws in place. They're able to operate differently. With that, probably their biggest law being that you can't do drugs openly on the street and you can't loiter trying to sell drugs, which is actually enforced, versus in Seattle for many years it A, wasn't illegal, B, now it is, but it's only enforced in some areas and not others. So with that, you find that there's less crime here, there is a less of a homeless population, and the streets feel a lot cleaner. Disclaimer, I want to make it very clear, I'm not for or against homeless people. I want to be sensitive about that population. I'm simply stating the facts right now about how Bellevue doesn't have a lot of homeless people, but Seattle does. And I think that's for various reasons, more resources in Seattle as well. Just stating that I don't dislike homeless people. And I actually love Seattle in downtown, even though there's a little more that comes with it. Behind me, everything you see was pretty much constructed in the last 20 to 30 years. So downtown Bellevue feels very new, which is nice. And it's got one of the best malls in America. But with that, one con that Seattle always has against it is so much more architecture, more charm, old buildings. You think of somewhere like Pioneer Square. Downtown Bellevue's never gonna have that. So it can feel like a little utopia-like to some people. So although the clean streets are nice, you're losing some charm. The feeling of living here too, everything's more spread out, a lot less dense. So the streets are wider, the sidewalks are wider, and it's just easier to get around. So if you're someone that gets really stressed out about driving, like small streets, windy streets, you will hate Seattle and you'll like Bellevue, because Bellevue has been more planned and it feels more like a suburb. Right here on Bellevue Way, just in the heart of downtown, and really what downtown Bellevue is just a giant mall. It was developed by Kemper Freeman. He developed Bellevue Square, which is the big indoor mall, but then even across the street, you got a lot of these big box stores. So it's not like it has a ton of uniqueness to it, but it's highly convenient, it's nice, it's clean, it's safe. Okay, again, I'll say, I feel like I'm making it sound like I like Bellevue better because I keep calling it clean and everything. But actually, if I were to choose Bellevue versus Seattle, personally, I would choose to spend the day in Seattle because I prefer the charm and uniqueness, and I'm willing to take the trade-off of what comes with that city. The streets of Bellevue, from a perspective of driving, since it's such a big part of our lives in the US, the streets are really wide. It's really easy to get around, whether you're on a service street, a downtown street, or even in a neighborhood. The neighborhood streets are way wider versus in Seattle. In neighborhoods, so many streets, most streets honestly, will have parking on either side, and then the street is like a one-way either way. Well, you'll have traffic going either way, but only one car can fit at a time, so you have to kind of pull off, and things are just so much more crammed. You'll have a lot of weird little one-way streets, little windy roads, cobblestone streets, four-way stops, five-way stops, even like a handful of six-way stops that are just so confusing and intimidating for people coming to this city. You get the hang of it, but driving in Seattle is way more stressful than driving in Bellevue. With that said, I do still think driving in Seattle isn't the most complex thing in the world. It's not like New York City. All right, quick driving tour through one of the top neighborhoods in Bellevue, Clyde Hill. It's propped on a hill, so it gets sweeping views kind of all over. And with that, you've got some insane homes. The luxury market in Bellevue tends to be, more expensive than in Seattle. It's not uncommon to see a $10 million home get listed, even $20 million homes on the lake. Whereas in Seattle, people aren't willing to pay that much to be in Seattle. You'll see $4 million homes, $5 million homes, but that luxury market, once it hits, I'd say 7 million and up, they'd rather be on the east side. And you see more expensive homes over here. And you'll see, even in these neighborhoods, all the homes have these nice long driveways versus in top neighborhoods with luxury homes in Seattle, you'll still see a ton of cars parked on the street. And that's because The homes, they'll be luxury, beautiful, expensive homes, but they back up to alleyways where they were still built, you know, early 1900s. And so they're backing up to alleyways with, you know, maybe a 1-car parking spot or a 2-car garage. Like here, you get bigger lot sizes on the east side, and you can build out, you know, your 4, 5, 6-car garage with a huge driveway if you want. But in Seattle, you can't. The lot sizes tend to be much smaller. You're lucky if you got a 1/4 acre. I mean, a big lot size in Seattle would be considered 7,500 square feet would be considered massive there. And the last big difference between Bellevue and Seattle is that Bellevue is along Lake Washington. So it gets water, but it's lake water, versus in Seattle, you're right along the Puget Sound, which is salt water. Seattle gets the more iconic, most beautiful views, but Bellevue is still such a beautiful place. I mean, look around here, it's so nice. And although it doesn't get, you know, the ocean, what it lacks in that, it makes up for. What you'll see, all these trees. Bellevue is so much more forested. Many parts of the east side feels more like living in a forest, versus Seattle isn't like that. You know, because it's so dense, you'll have so many homes crammed in so many areas that you'll have like one big tree on one lot, another big tree on another lot, and then a public park with lots of trees. But here in Bellevue, because there's so many single family homes, a single family home could be on a lot where there's like 15 trees on it. And you'll just find driving through, you feel like you're a little more in nature with all the tall trees around on the east side. But that's it. That is some of the things to think of when you're thinking about moving to Bellevue or Seattle. Both are amazing places to live. You can find neighborhoods in Seattle that give you some of those qualities that you might want in Bellevue, but you can't really find neighborhoods in Bellevue that give you the qualities you'd want in Seattle, is another thing I would say. But no wrong answer in where to live. They're both fantastic. If you need help finding a home, buying or selling in either the Bellevue, Seattle, Kirkland, Redmond, Sammamish area, again, I'm Monica Church. I'd be happy to help you. All my information to get in contact with me is below as always, and I'll see you next time. Bye.